we had to transfer it all the way to Southend and Sea, which is about 55 to hour drive. Again, all on the police blue lights, got there, and then we blowed it in situ. So we just blowed it up on the beach, right? So again, had to put in a 5K radius and just put loads of plastic explosive on it and just get a big bang. So,
Wow.
So
my God.
So like
we was able
these,
to do that.
these bombs, this is nothing to do with fitness, but I don't care. If you don't think this is interesting, then like you
I'll
come
bring
to
it
the
back
wrong
into
place.
fitness in a second, but this
Sure.
is amazing.
Who cares? This is
Yeah.
way cooler. Welcome into the Train with the Best podcast. I'm Craig Hoffman.
Chris Gorres.
Have an amazing guest for you today, Dwayne Paul, who you will recognize the voice, very distinct voice, an international voice.
Right.
He's the British guy that popped on episode 200 and said a bunch of nice things. Turns out his story, pretty amazing. Just all I got to say is he was literally on the bomb squad. And if
That's
that
right.
doesn't make you want to listen to the rest of the episode, I don't know what will.
You know whose voice you won't recognize on the podcast interview is me. My voice was so raspy. Today, I finally feel like my voice is...
It still sounds a little raspy, but it's worse. People just wait 10 minutes or whatever it is.
It's like
gonna be
it's
worse.
like 90% right now. Yesterday was rough because I had to get through the whole Vertimax cert down in Raleigh. So it was a day full of talking, but at least it didn't hurt to speak. Like earlier in the week, I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday, it actually physically hurt to speak. So I had to
happened?
whisper. I think it's just allergies because the allergies were killing my throat. Were I was drinking all kinds of tea, taking medicine for allergies and stuff, obviously. I felt fine. It was just my throat was killing me. So today I finally feel like I'm close to having my regular voice again.
Okay, well, I'm glad you're feeling better. So don't adjust your radio dials, as they say. That's just Chris's voice for today.
Right.
So the other thing I want to talk about real quick before we get to the interview with Dwayne, which is really fantastic and interesting in so many ways, is I was recording this Sunday night. Ben Simmons, a couple hours ago, ruled out of Game 4 in the NBA playoffs, the series where the team he is on, the Brooklyn Nets, is down 3-0 to the Boston Celtics. Jason Tatum's been incredible. And Simmons would be a huge help to that team in defending him. Last we saw him, he was a finalist for NBA Defensive Player of the Year. He's an all-star. He's fantastic when he's out there. But we saw what really looked like a mental collapse from him in the Atlanta series last year where he just was afraid to shoot. He had the yips. He had whatever it is that it was. He clearly then, in the offseason, wanted out of Philadelphia. He doesn't get that wish. Eventually, they orchestrate a trade with Brooklyn. Brooklyn gets Simmons. Philadelphia gets Harden. And now all signs were pointing towards him coming back Game 4. He should have been back already or would have been back from his, to use the terminology they were using, like the mental health situation, whatever it was that the mental space he needed to be in to play. Earlier in the season, closer to when he got traded, but then he injured his back somehow and now is dealing with that. He woke up this morning, Sunday morning, as we're recording this, the day before Game 5, when you're hearing this probably on Monday, April 25th, with that back being sore, and went to his coaching staff and the medical staff, and eventually they were like, no, we shouldn't risk it, which on its face seems like a reasonable decision. Like, they're down 3-0 in the series. At this point, you're trying to get him right for next year, and he's only going to play limited minutes, whatever, coming back anyway. I get all that. I think what makes this interesting, though, Chris, is what keeps ringing in my head is my conversation with Ashley Spates, when she talks about pain being the alarm system for the body. And I just kind of wonder if it's possible that at this point, when Ben Simmons is about to play basketball, the mental side of it kicks in and is like, nah, dude, your back hurts. Don't do that. Last time you did that, it was really bad for you. Don't do that. Don't play basketball. And eventually, you just got to push through that because your back is fine, or your ankle, if you hurt yourself doing box jumps or whatever, like eventually you got to jump on the box again. And your brain's got to learn that it's safe to do that thing. And I wonder at this point with Simmons, if that like neurological part of this equation is affecting him more than some physical back injury. Obviously, we don't know. I'm not pretending to be in the know of his medical situation. I just wonder if that's a possibility, and if that's not even potentially the most likely possibility.
Yeah, I think like you said, the biggest thing that anybody should ever take away from any of this, and if you're listening to this, the biggest takeaway is, of course, me and Craig don't know. And
right.
And the truth is, maybe not even the Brooklyn Nets know. There's only one person in this world that knows what's going on with Ben Simmons, and that's Ben Simmons. Yeah, and there is a lot to do with the connection between physical pain and what's happening in your brain, as we've learned with Ashley, as we learned with Dr. Perry Nicholson, as we learned with Abby Duncan when she was talking about complex regional pain syndrome and what that means, right? So there are a ton of things, and we do know that, you know, that old saying of it's all in your head, it's all in your head. Yes, that's partly true, but it's also not all the way true, because if it is in your head, that's still real physical pain that person is actually feeling, right? So, and again, nobody knows how he hurt his back, why he hurt his back, when he hurt his back, or any of that stuff. So, yeah, I think it becomes a very it becomes a situation, especially now, where it feels like for Ben Simmons, everybody in the world knows what's going on with him. So now there's this added pressure of like, when he does go back out there, he's going to have to go back out there and play well, right? And if he doesn't play well, then, you know, two things are going to happen. One group is going to be like, well, he shouldn't have come back if he wasn't right. And the other group is going to be like, oh, he's a bum, right? So, like, in all honesty, if I was the Brooklyn Nets, I would rule him out for Game 4 anyway, because you're down 3-0. Nobody's ever come back from 3-0. You throw this kid out here who's already had mental health issues. You guys lose the game anyway, and everybody blames him for you losing the game.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I would feel like this is almost an ideal situation for him, though, because he can come back and there's no pressure. You're down 3-0. Like, what happens? You lose? Like, okay, that's what you thought. You just say, like, hey, they were the better team. He gets to be out there. You get to see what it looks like. He gets to get that game under his belt, as opposed to an entire other summer of speculation about whether he's still a good basketball player and whether he's ever going to play again. Like, at least you'd rip the Band-Aid off.
Yeah, but again, like, look at what you just said, right? Like, what's the risk and the reward now? Like, the reward is you get to at least rip the Band-Aid off, and then we're off until the fall. Versus the risk is you're going to damage this kid more. If he does have actual back problems going on, we could damage that going back into the summer. So, I don't know. You don't know. Nobody knows. What I do know is there's going to be a lot of talking heads talking about this tomorrow. Or Monday, whenever it is that you're listening to this, and everybody's going to have their opinion about Ben Simmons, and I get both sides. I get all sides, because it's like, hey, your team is counting on you, your organization is counting on you, you should be healthy to go. What's going on? Nobody knows the truth. And then the other side is, hey, like, if there is actually something going on with you, take whatever you need to get right, and then, you know, when you're right, we'll be here, and we'll be glad to have you.
Yeah, this is where I always struggle as when I got the mic and the headphones out on the sports radio side of things, and why I appreciate having the background that I have in sports science and all the training stuff is because I think having that, like, you know, like, we're not medical professionals, obviously, but like that medical approach to it, where injury management and that kind of stuff we obviously deal with, even though we're not doctors. You know, like, having that approach is always going to factor into my analysis, which is good, because that's like way more important than getting up on TV and screaming a hot take. Like, right. But at the end of the day, like, there are a lot of factors here. Like, he's getting paid a lot of money, which I don't begrudge the actual dollar amount. It's just that, like, his contract is a high percentage of the salary cap. He's counted on by that organization and his teammates to be a reliable piece of the organization. Now, they acquired him, Brooklyn did, knowing that this was part of the equation to a point. But, like, if he assured them, like, no, I'm ready to go, whatever, they thought they were going to get something out of him, that factors into their decision to make that trade. They invested in him, and he should want to pay off that investment. And when you look at Ben Simmons' history of, you know, he clearly didn't want any part of Philadelphia, and, like, I get that to a point, but he wasn't even willing to work with them at all. Like, he was you know, obstinate kind of in how he approached that. You know, they were trying to be open to him. They were trying to help him out, and he just didn't want any of it. And eventually, like, someone who needs help has got to want to be helped. And then you go back even to college and what he did at LSU, where he wasn't interested in being there. And everyone kind of, I guess, again, on some level understood the deal with him, but it's not a good track record for his competitive character. And like, when you're talking about professional sports, that matters a lot. Like, that's part of what makes Giannis Antetokounmpo great. It's what we laud about Michael Jordan. It's what's made LeBron so great over the years. Like, their competitive character is so high, and you look at what this situation is with Simmons, and it's really hard to understand. And again, because we don't know, like, maybe this back thing is something that's serious and needs to be worried about, in which case, yeah, talking about his competitive character doesn't matter because it's a back injury. But I think what's interesting to me is seeing guys like Reggie Miller and a lot of other, whether it's former players or, the insider types that are plugged in around the league. It seems like the word in the NBA is that this dude's competitive character isn't up to snuff, and that he's just kind of a selfish guy and is never really someone that's going to be relied upon. And his back injury's not really that serious, or, the other stuff was all an excuse. And, that would really suck if that wasn't the case, because I feel like the next guy that comes along that has an actual injury or is having real mental health issues, like if Simmons is playing this up in some kind of way, like that hurts that guy too. It's just nobody wins with how this is right now, and I hope it's legit. Obviously.
Well, and like you said, look, like two things, right? Like if there is that chatter going around in that league, that chatter didn't just start yesterday.
Right.
It didn't just start today,
totally.
right? So look, buyer beware, right? Like if you're the Brooklyn Nets and you make this trade and you pull this trigger on Ben Simmons, you do your homework on this kid. You do your homework and see what was he like at LSU, what was going on in Philly, what's the real reason why it's not working out over there. And if you're willing to still pull that trigger, then look, that's on you. You bought this. You bought this is what you
bought him with the contract and the whole thing.
Right.
You knew the price tag. It was up front.
This is what you signed
MSRP,
up for.
lots of money.
Exactly. So, don't blame him for being him. Like he is who he is, right? And again, don't know, but like a lot of this is on Brooklyn, and maybe it's on Brooklyn too, because from an organizational standpoint, look, if there is something going on, we don't know. Look, there's stuff going on in New Orleans as well with Zion, right? Mm-hmm. Like, all right, hey, we don't want to rush you back. Where Zion's like, no, I want to play, right? Like
right.
we don't know where that tug of war is going, right? So there's so much to know that we don't know. There's so much to react to that, like, there's going to be a lot of reactions, but I can see it from both sides. I can see the organization saying, hey, look, don't rush back. We traded you for the long haul. We didn't trade for you so we can win the championship this year. This is not our window. Our window extends beyond this. We've got 2 number 1 draft picks from the Philadelphia 76ers. Like, this was a long-term trade for us. This wasn't, we need to win the championship this year. So if you're not 100%, don't rush back. Right?
Yeah, I would want to know what Kevin Durant thinks of not winning a title this year, because that's certainly what they signed up for in Brooklyn. And by the way, but KD and Kyrie aren't getting any younger, and their contracts are coming. Like, Kyrie's a free agent, I think, this offseason, or can become a free agent this offseason. And who knows what the hell he's going to do, because Kyrie doesn't never know what Kyrie's going to do.
Yeah, I think there's a different conversation to be had that, like, I think the league, the torch is being passed from the KD LeBron era to the new era of the Jamarians and these young guys that are coming up and taking that torch and running with it. Like the Jason Tatums, who are like, no, this is my league now, right?
Well, those guys are going to have to go through Giannis, who's a little bit older, but not much.
And Giannis too, right? Like, so you see the torch being passed in his playoffs, and I get that's partly why people want to see guys like Ben Simmons play and Zion Williamson play, because there's so much great basketball to be consumed right now. It's like, man, what if Ben was playing? What if Zion was playing? So I get it. I think it's a really interesting conversation. And I think that KD has a very interesting perspective, because from KD's standpoint, here's somebody who came back too early to try to win the finals with Golden State, and that ended up costing him a year. So who knows what he's saying? Who knows if he's saying, hey, like, we really need you back, or if he's saying, hey, like, don't cost yourself a whole nother year. Who
Right.
knows, right? So
Right.
he's got an interesting
true.
perspective on this.
That's 100% true. And KD seems like a great dude, and but at the same time, I think that there's probably a lot of frustration, and clearly there's a lot of people that I think are still just sour. Like they made up their minds about Ben Simmons last year before knowing anything, and that's always going to affect the coverage, which affects how we then consume the information on our end as those who aren't on the inside. I just thought it was interesting because there is kind of like this. The media, like mental side of it, soft, whatever label you want to throw on him. And I'm like, I don't know enough to be able to say that definitively, but like after yet another disappointment, I don't think it's as unreasonable to at least put that in the pile of considerations as maybe, at the end of last summer when he's like, nah, man, I need some help. So we'll see how this plays out, but Simmons out of game 4 and, we'll, I'm sure have more fun things to talk about with the NBA as that are training adjacent, because the training side of this too is like the strength and conditioning coach plays a huge role there in the ability to test things out performance wise and create situations along with the medical staff that can try to suss out that physical versus mental. But at the end of the day, like the player's got to go, I'm ready, and
it's got to be the player, and even that strength and conditioning coach is only going to be as effective as much as Ben Simmons buys into that strength and conditioning coach, right? So like at the end of the day, all of these guys take care of themselves. That is the one thing that I would say is like I don't begrudge any player for just looking out for themselves, because it is a dog eat dog world out there, and it is like a business, and I've seen organizations treat players like crap. So I don't blame the players for saying, hey, if I'm not ready, I'm not playing, right? So
yeah, agreed.
I will say that part of it is the one part that I'm like, I don't really care for that part where it's like, oh, he owes it to the organization. Like, no, if the organization took this gamble, like for instance in the NFL, if an NFL team signed Antonio Brown tomorrow, what would your reaction be? Like, all right, buyer beware, right?
Oh God, you don't even want to go into that rabbit hole.
That's a whole
Antonio Brown's like the worst human being, one of the worst human beings in the NFL. That's just a different topic.
And we know that we know that, right? But if it's like, hey, like I'm gonna deal with this headache because I like what he can do for me on the field. Okay, here comes the headache, right? Mm-hmm. So you got it, and if things blow up in that team's face, whose fault is it? It's that team, right? It's that team for saying.
Well, I think it's both, and that's kind of the thing here too. Is like, because I mean, I talked about this a lot on the radio and in other mediums with Brown specifically. It's just like, yeah, he can stop being a shithead at any time, and also the Bucs should have known better. So they got what was coming to him, but like he can also do better.
But the Bucs did know better too, right? Like,
that's what I'm saying. That's why both. Two wrongs don't always make a right. Sometimes two wrongs are like really, really, really wrong.
Right. But like look at the way that contract was structured for Antonio down in Tampa Bay. Like that was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers saying, "Hey, we'll take a chance on you, and we're not going to go all in." Right.
Yeah.
So, so that's the part where I'm like, hey, this is a little bit on the organization too. And like there's just no loyalty in pro sports, whether it's between the athletes and the organizations to athletes. That doesn't exist.
There's not, but being a good teammate is a characteristic or a character trait that you should show. And you should have something to your teammates. And if not, then your career is going to be a lot shorter. Like it's in your best interest to be a good teammate. And we don't know enough to definitively say Ben Simmons, bad teammate, but I think there's a lot of dudes in Philadelphia who'd be willing to co-sign that, and so far in Brooklyn, like, credit to him, he's been in a bunch of games, and he's been involved, he's been in every film session, and that stuff's great. But eventually you got to play. And,
I will say this about the whole team thing that you do see it in the NBA because Brooklyn all year with the whole Kyrie thing, and now with the Ben Simmons thing, and even the way that KD kind of carries himself towards certain media and the way that they want to do things their own way. They wanted to hire Steve Nash as a coach who's never had coaching experience. They wanted to bring in these players who had maybe some question marks, and they wanted to do things their own way. You look at the teams that are the top 3 seeds, right? You look at Phoenix, Memphis, Golden State, Boston, Miami. What do all 5 of those teams have in common? Buy-in. All of them, every single person on all 5 of those teams buys into the team and the organization and gives it. Now, again, I don't care. You can carry yourself however you want to carry yourself, But if the Brooklyn Nets choose to carry themselves that way, you're seeing that it's much harder to win a championship doing it your own way versus doing it what's been in the proven way, which is having a team that buys in. So I will say
100%.
that.
Right. It's not like, you're a horrible person at the end of the day, or, like you're doing something legal or whatever if you want to look out for yourself. But like, actions have consequences. At the end of the day, like, you got to decide what your goals are, what's important to you. And some guys will be like, look, I got my money and then I retired and I got to go to the Cayman Islands whenever I wanted to. And like, that's their thing.
Yeah, do your thing.
And hey, that you set your goals. But, at the same time, I think most guys that are playing, at least, I don't know, maybe it's not that way anymore. You hear some of the older players talk about the way some of the younger players are now, but like throughout the history of sports, the goal is you want to win. Like, you don't get to that level without being super competitive. And so I think it definitely shows up. Guys like Tatum that want to win so badly. And it doesn't mean that they're always, that they can't get hurt or like sit out a game or take a rest day every now and again, take care of themselves. But it's in the interest of the long-term goal. And I think that's I think the big question of Brooklyn right now. All right, when we get back, our interview with Dwayne Paul, talk about a team player. You got to hear what this guy used to do. Dwayne Paul's next on the Train with the Best podcast. The Train with the Best podcast is brought to you by Super Coffee, and it's not often that I am like really genuinely excited, like kind of can't wait level excited to do an ad, but I have gotten the order in and have plowed my way through a box of this new tasty pastry collection from Super Coffee. I cannot believe how good it is, because I just can't believe that they created these flavors. If you're going, what are you talking about? Maybe you're new to the podcast. Super Coffee, who we've been with for like 4 years, have launched a ton of great products over the years, from their super espressos to their grounds to their K-Cups. Everything they've put out has been great, but never have they been this audacious in a flavor. And then they did it times 3. They created a blueberry muffin, a cinnamon bun, and a caramel waffle, and they called it the Tasty Pastry Collection. And if you took a blueberry muffin, like an actual muffin, and dipped it in coffee and put it in your mouth, and then somehow made it into liquid form, that's what the blueberry muffin tastes like. Same thing for a cinnamon bun. Dip it in coffee, put it in your mouth. Like, it's insane. I don't know how Jordan, Jake, and Jimmy did it. The Chico boys who founded Super Coffee and have continued to run it to amazing success all these years. It's just unbelievably good. So go to drinksupercoffee.com, use the code TRAINWITHTHEBEST, get your 25% off your order, and enjoy. That's it. That's the ad. The coffee's ridiculous. Go enjoy it. Drinksupercoffee.com. The code is TRAINWITHTHEBEST. The Train with the Best podcast is brought to you by Jakku, and man, we put out some great content this week. Really, I say we. It was Chris. I hit a couple of buttons to make sure that we shared it properly on the Train with the Best 21 Instagram account, but it's the Jakku 1K. Here's what you do. 4 sprints. Try to get a little faster each time. And of course, you're timing this on your Jakku training device, which is going to be more accurate than a stopwatch, more accurate than those fancy laser timing systems even, and at a humongous discount compared to those fancy laser timing systems. You do 4 sprints, then you do 4 with the Jakku wind shoot, and then you do 2 more all out. 10 sprints. By the end, you're toast, but you've also gotten faster, and that's really kind of the point. You measure yourself so that you can have accurate readings on where you are in your speed training. So make sure that those readings are actually accurate. Go to jakku.com/discount/TWTB for 20% off. It's jakku.com/discount/TWTB. Follow them on Instagram at JakkuSpeed, and make sure you're following us at Train with the Best 21. Our guest today on the Train with the Best podcast, you heard his voice a couple episodes ago. In episode 200, had some very kind words to say. He is the founder of Limitless Training Club in Northamptonshire over in England. It is Dwayne Paul. Dwayne, thanks so much for coming on the pod, man. I'm excited to talk to you.
Thank you very much for having me, guys. I really appreciate it. And massive congratulations again on 200 plus episode. Well
Thank
done.
you. Chris, we're international, bro.
We are international. Actually, we were just talking off air a little bit here, and it's kind of cool to see. I know Dwayne was obviously a faithful listener of the show, but for him and for the rest of his staff, and for some of his rugby athletes, for them to be following the show as well, it's pretty humbling. And it's pretty cool to know that people over there across the pond are listening to what we say.
So Dwayne, how'd you find the show? How'd you find us? And then we want to know about you. This is not an interview to have you say nice things about us, but we'll start there. How did you find the show?
No, well, definitely after coming back from Richmond, Virginia on my Vertimax course, myself and Chris kept the link, and following him on Instagram and stuff like that. And that popped up, trade with the best. So I said, okay, cool. I'll click on this. And and to be honest, mate, claim to fame. That was my first podcast I ever listened to.
Let's go.
Train with the best, so it's pretty, it's pretty like pretty loyal listener, if I'm being honest.
No doubt. Yeah. I think that's the coolest thing for us is like we've got people who listen who themselves could easily be guests on the show, just like you. And so tell us a little bit more about Limitless Training Club and how'd you found it, and like what's the mission that you guys have? Because from everything I've heard from Chris telling me, like it sounds like a pretty cool place.
Well, pretty much we founded it back in January 2017. So pretty much I'll just a little bit about myself. So originally from the Caribbean, 2003 got enlisted into the British Army, came over here to join the military. After serving like 13 years in the British Army, I've decided my time, full deployment of Afghanistan, I think that was enough. So I decided I wanted to get into the fitness industry. So what I did was I got onto my resettlement course and I did my level 3 PT for my resettlement. So I've done that. Fast forward 8 weeks, and I was able to be fully called up. So what I did, I was still in the army, still in my transition of getting out back onto CV Street, and I've decided to. At the time, I was living in central London with my wife at the time, and created something called At Home Fitness. So At Home Fitness was pretty much a franchise based in Birmingham as well, so in the Midlands. Going to the franchise, so I bought a franchise for Central London, and our role was basically going into people's home and just doing fitness and in the local packs and working with all the CT, the bankers and CT workers.
It's a very interesting story, and then obviously you go off and start your own thing with Limitless, and It's really interesting because for those listeners here on the stateside that have never been to Europe, it's very different over here. Over here in the States, we have, especially at Onyx, we have a lot of youth athletes. And that's something that is built into the culture here in America, that youth athletes work out, they train, they lift weights, they do all those things. That's not necessarily the case in England, right? Like especially when you talk about the English football culture, at least for maybe that's changed recently, but kids don't growing up thinking that they have to do speed training and weightlifting when they're in middle school or in high school. Is that right, Dwayne?
Absolutely not. And setting up Limitless, I've realized that pretty much that's a really untapped resource back over here, because coming back from the US and we sit in Chris in Virginia and talking about all the athletes you go working with and stuff like that, I'm soaking everything up like a sponge, and came back to the UK and look at that and realize, what, I'm here and we have no program whatsoever for youth athletes, and so I pretty much start speaking to the local school, the local club. And I was really lucky and blessed enough to set up my first facility at Kettering Rugby Club, which is a local rugby club. And they got like 400 mini juniors, so I walk in straight into a ready-made clientele, sort of thing. And I was able to, hence the reason why I'm calling Chris all the time and getting some advice from him and stuff like that. And then was able to introduce youth fitness in the UK. And I'm telling you what, it's still not enough, and I'm fully stacked out, but, we still have a space for a lot more, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. Even with what you're doing now, there's space to grow, but we talk all the time, as you well know, about like when you introduce new stimulus to someone, how much of an impact that can make, even just the smallest bit. So you've got this clientele that has never been exposed to anything like this. You expose them to the amount that they're ready for, the amount that you can provide, given all the things that you're talking about, resources, buy-in, all these kinds of things. what kind of difference you've been able to make for these kids, even again at the level that is not enough, but is more than they've ever done before.
Well, massively. As we speak right now, one of my athletes, Lauren McKee, she just fought in the finals of the European Boxing Championship at 1 p.m. UK time today, and came short to France. So she lost in the final, but that's one of the athletes I worked with for the last 5-6 months, getting up to that level. And we have the rugby under 18s Six Nations as well going on over in France at the minute. And one of my young athletes, Chuck Smythe, he's playing for Scotland as well. So what we are seeing is, these kids are not only doing it regional, but international as well. And that's what we have created here. And, just to even, get into it more, we have, when we have the rugby games on a Sunday, which we have like in the under 14 is my largest number of athletes. And these kids, when you see they come up against the opponent and even the guys playing on the team, they're pretty much on a different level to the rest of the kids on the pitch, sort of thing. So what we're seeing is a slight step up to the rest of the kids with the kids that we have working with presently, which is really refreshing, if I'm being honest. To see that.
Yeah. So Dwayne, I wanted to ask you a question, and then I want to dig in a little bit into your past, because that's really why I wanted to get you on the show, and I'll ask that question in a second. But you and I have had a lot of talks over the past several years, giving you some tips and pointers here about how much space you need and what equipment you should buy and all those other things. What was the one thing that maybe stuck out to you? I'm curious to know what was maybe one thing I said that you remembered or resonated with you.
To pretty much keep it simple, we looked at it and stick to my plan as well, because we have to have a plan. I remember our conversation from Perform Better to Leamington Spa,
right?
And we were in a car. We're driving to Leamington Spa, and you said, Dwayne, you got to have a plan, and once you have a plan, don't complicate things. Keep it simple, and that's one of my mottos still. I keep it very simple. And I stick to that plan.
Yeah. And for those listening, Leamington Spa is a place, not an actual spa. Leamington Spa is an actual town where I was staying. He wasn't taking me to get a massage or my nails done or anything like that.
Hey, nothing wrong with a little self-care in the middle of a Perform Better conference. Who cares? You got a problem with that? That's your problem. I'm just saying. I'm curious, real quick, last thing on this, and then I would love to, like Chris said, get more about your past and your backstory and how you got to this point. But let's look ahead first. What's the thing that you're looking at now? You're like, I know there's more out there. This is the next thing I want to do. What's that next step for you? And for Limitless / just in general for youth sports in the UK?
So pretty much the big thing now, I've just teamed up with a Premiership rugby player, Will Chudley. And we have created something called the Kettering High Performance Academy. Okay, so pretty much we enroll 50 kids on the program, and it's run on a school year. Okay, so we start intake is in September and finish in July with a award function, right? And we have these 50 kids. They all have their slots in the gym. So we got Monday, Tuesday, Thursdays, and Fridays, and for 3 hours, we have different slots these kids can just book into, and we deliver the training. So I got 2 S&C guys, which we hire on a bit of contract consulting sort of thing, and they deliver the session for us. So that's what we're going to build on now. We're going to push more on that, because we want to create, although we created Limitless High Performance Academy Kettering, the next one we want to move to is Limitless High Performance Northampton, and then to Limitless High Performance in Wellingborough. So pretty much we have all the plans set up, and that's our long-term plan, basically.
Keep it simple, great. But then just expand. I love
Just
it.
Expand. Just expand.
I love it.
The Train with the Best podcast is brought to you by Momentous. Momentous is a performance nutrition company whose products optimize your active life. It's trusted by over 150 pro and collegiate sports teams, individual athletes to, again, the team sports, to folks like us are using Momentous each and every day to not only perform better, but to feel better. Whether it's their line of vitamins, like their multivitamin, vitamin D, magnesium, all those kinds of supplements, to their creatines and their collagen supplements, to recovery products such as their protein. And of course, the ultimate recovery product, Elite Sleep. Get more out of your sleep. Momentous has you covered in each and every facet of your athletic endeavors. Whether it's to optimize, perform, or recover, Momentous is your one-stop shop for everything you need to supplement your daily diet. So how do you get all these magical products? Very easy. You go to livemomentous.com, use the code TRAINWITHTHEBEST25. Livemomentous.com, TRAINWITHTHEBEST25, or click the link in the episode description, and you can get 25% off your first order. It works with the subscription orders, so you go 25% off, then 15% off all the refills, so it is a long-term savings on these premium products. Go check them out. livemomentous.com. The code is TRAINWITHTHEBEST25. Train with the Best podcast is brought to you by BlazePod. At blazepod.com, use the code TWTB. You get 15% off. The best reactive training system on the market. We only work with the best. That's why we're called Train with the Best. You think we just made up that title for funsies? Oh, hey, look at us. We're the best. No. It's not about us. It's about all of our team. And our team now includes BlazePod. Get 6 lights per set. Set them up in whatever shape that you think is best suited for your drill. You set up a number of colors. It could just be a single color. It could be on the hit. It could be on a timed interval. Whatever it is that works for your drill is a completely customizable reactive training system that you as a coach can use to make sure that your athletes are primed to make the best decisions possible when they hit the court, when they hit the field, when they hit whatever other playing surface that they go out and play on. I don't know, maybe we got a bunch of water polo coaches listening all of a sudden. Do you want your water poloers making good decisions? You sure do there in the water. So train them with BlazePod. Go to blazepod.com. Use the code TWTB. It's 15% off. blazepod.com, TWTB.
So one of the things that I was thinking about, Craig had asked me kind of about our relationship, and I remember our conversations, of course, and it kind of just hit me. We talk so much on the show about movement assessment and risk assessment and things like that. And then I remember the conversation when you were telling me about what you actually did for the military, which was you were on the bomb squad. Is that right?
Yeah, I did. I did 7 years. My last 7 years in the military was a bomb disposal operator. So, yeah.
So when we talk about risk assessment, right? Like it doesn't get any more high pressure than having to dispose of an explosive, right? Like,
nope.
So can you talk about your experience a little bit and what's the correlation there between let's talk about your experience first and let's see if we can find a correlation if there is one.
No, for sure. Well, to be honest, when I started on my military career, I was posted to finish military engineering school, so I was enlisted in the Royal Engineers. So once I finished my military education, I got posted to Germany. At the time, I was playing heavily into football, which is soccer, as you know it in the States.
Right.
So I got posted to 2-8 Engineer Regiment, which is out in Hamelin, Germany, because of my football ability, and that was the engineer sort of like set up for footballers to be posted to. So for the first 5 years, played football in Germany. And I did my first deployment there as well. But that role was as a combat engineer. So I went out to Afghanistan 2006 as a combat engineer. Done that, and then 2009 got promoted. So got promoted to my first rank, Lance Corporal. Then I've moved on, which was due posting. So I got posted back to England. So at the time, I just bought a property. So back in 2008/2009, I bought my first property, and it was in Kettering. And I've looked around and I've realized the closest unit or the closest regiment to my property was EOD bomb disposal. So I I want to be, it's only 60 clicks away, 60 miles. So I'm going for that post, and all my mates were like, "Are you for real?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going bomb disposal." So I applied for my posting, and then I got bomb disposal. So we got posted over in July 2009 to Wimbish, and that's where my bomb disposal posting started.
So talk about that process a little bit now. So, when you get called onto a scene, like, what's that process like when you have to dispose of a bomb?
Yeah, well, you have two. Yeah, so you have two duties. So you do your 6-month deployment in Afghanistan, and then you come back and you're on UK operational duty. Okay, so UK operational duty, you're on a pager. So you could be on 1 hour notice to move, where you got to be on camp all time, or you can be on a 3-hour pager. So I was one of the commander on a 3-hour pager, and my first bomb job was 2014, and it was outside Wembley Stadium, 200 meters from Wembley Stadium, 2 days before the championship playoff at Wembley Stadium. Right?
Wow.
And the got was a German bomb, German SC-50, so it's a 50 kg bomb found on a construction site due to excavating. So we got called in, crashed out pretty much on the blue lights. So we've been blue lights with the London Metropolitan Police all the way to site. And we start the task. Most of the time we have to cordon off the area. It can be up to 1K, 1.5K. So we normally do those ops in the night when everyone is sleeping. 1, when it's nice and quiet. And 2, we have to move everyone within that 1 to 1.5K radius into hotels, just in case something do go wrong. So that was my first UK task, and we came back, done that, and I came off pager 2 weeks after, and I got put back on pager the following week. Guess what? My pager went off again, and next bomb found East London, Bethnal Green. So again, we got crashed out. This time it was a 500-pound German bomb. The problem we had with that bomb, right? We were looking at our system, which I can't disclose, because it's all
of course,
secret. So and pretty much never came across that bomb in bomb school. So we had to get onto the system and type.
I'm just gonna pause you there, Chris. He went to bomb school.
Yeah. This is crazy.
Bomb school.
I'm loving this story so far. Like, because obviously, like, I watched MacGyver growing up, so that was my envision.
Yeah.
Like, and I envision bomb disposal to be like MacGyver with like chewing gum and like a toothpick or whatever. But keep telling.
That it's like, are we taking red wire, blue wire, like how yellow wire, like it's like that from the movies? No, you're out there actually doing it. And it's probably a lot more complicated. So we have a 500-pound German bomb that you didn't learn about in bomb school.
Yes, so we put it up, but it's on the system, so we was able to put it up, and then it was dug so low into a basement, so they was trying to put a new flat in the basement. So we dug that, and we had to get a London Fire Brigade to ocra props so we can winch it out of that hole, right? And then we had to transfer it all the way to Southend and Sea, which is about 55 to hour drive. Again, all on the police blue lights, got there, and then we blowed it in situ. So we just blowed it up on the beach, right? So had to put in a 5K radius and just put loads of plastic explosive on it and just get a big bang. So,
wow.
My God.
So like
we was able to do that.
These bombs, this has nothing to do with fitness, but I don't care. If you don't think this is interesting, then like you
I'll bring it back into fitness in a second, but this is amazing.
Who cares? This is way cooler. Is this like when you say like German bombs, is it like unexploded from World War II? How do these bombs get there? Like, what is it? 'Cause I think some people think like, oh God, it's a terrorist attack. Like that bomb's a ticking, like it's ticking, it's gonna go off. Like you're racing against the clock. Like take us inside of like what that actually is. Is that unexploded from World War II and it's sitting there, and what's the risk level of that going off for whatever reason?
So it's a German bomb. So we did come across some ex-Soviet Union as well, Russia. So pretty much that will hit the target and not detonate, right? So that will just skim through and just come to a standstill, basically. The danger with that still, it can be like the nose fuse is still intact. Okay, so pretty much you have to be approaching that bomb seriously. Okay, so we have something that we will drill into the fuse, and we have a solution we will put into the bomb, so we can pretty much get the explosive to turn into like rock solid concrete, basically, right? So we kind of immunize. So that's the process is immunization. So we immunize that bomb, and then that's for us to transfer it, right? So, but then the explosive, the plastic explosive, or the explosive inside the bomb is still live, you know. So so then we take it very cautiously to that location and dispose of it.
Wow. This is amazing, and I wanted to hear about that because, you know, we talk so much again about like movement assessments and things like that, and you were literally dealing with 500-pound German bombs that haven't exploded. You know, this is not quite as serious, but, you know, obviously when we're assessing people's movements, we're looking for what's that ticking time bomb. Is it something that's waiting to go off that's going to cause this injury, or is it a movement dysfunction that's been there for forever? Same thing like a German bomb that just didn't detonate. Is it something that's there that movement patterns over years have caused a dysfunction? And we try to isolate those things, like you said, and try to minimize the risk of those things, and then eventually immunize it. You use the word immunize. That's basically what we do from a movement standpoint is we say, hey, if this is something that's bad, let's not make it worse. Right, that's
Absolutely,
the first thing.
for sure.
Let's not make it worse. And then how can we make it so that it's safe to use again? How do we make a knee safe to use again, or an ankle safe to use again?
You take it to the beach and you explode it.
Right. So my question now is:
Don't do that.
Have you ever thought about that? Like, is that process something that you've kept with you? What you've learned diffusing bombs and immunizing bombs, have you taken that to the process of, hey, when I'm training an athlete who has injury risks, and, you know, we need to find out what they need to do to prevent themselves from blowing up, per se, right? Do you still use that type of process when you're assessing people?
Absolutely. You approach it in the same manner. You know, it's because, again, you know, we as fitness trainers, you know, if we don't do it properly, we can cause some serious injuries to the athletes, to the clients in front of us. And if we don't do it properly with a bomb, you know, I wouldn't be here to tell my story now, you know. So you have to take it. You know, the two jobs come, you know, you got to take it seriously, because one, you can cause people serious damage, or two, you can cause yourself and your colleagues and your team some serious damage as well. And we had to do that, where we had to mitigate. Like one of my last bomb job, which I think is my biggest claim to fame as well, because that was the first operation. So that was in Coventry, which is like in the Midlands. We had a bomb again found on a site, and it was literally out of one of Coventry University Doma. So that was our first job where we had to put in a mitigation system. So a mitigation system is pretty much like Hescobastian wires and full with loads and tons of like gravel and loose soil and stuff like that. And then we had to put like a massive covering and blow it up in situ. Okay, so we blowed it up, right? And the officer who came down to put the shot, we had a blind. So a blind is basically when the bomb really did not go off, right? So you got a cooling off period. So you got to wait for 1 hour. So pretty much, and then you got to do the good old walk, right? Because again, that can be like a fuse that can just burn in really slowly as well, right? So you got to do that walk. But luckily enough, the bomb was not fully, like, I think when it went off, the fuse just popped basically and did not hit the explosive properly. So we had to get that redone and blow the bomb on site. So we were literally 1K away, right behind a building, and we just like boom, just get a detonation, you know, sort of thing. And that was like that shot. We hit that shot like half free the morning, you know, when everyone is asleep, right? It just like boom. So I did that, and I was able to get recognized in 2016 for Military Engineer of the Year. So in Central London, they had a big award, like, and I got awarded Military Engineer of the Year for my free task. Yeah, so that's it. That's my military bomb disposal.
So this is,
nuclear
again,
operational side of life.
This is why I wanted to have you on the show, because, well, I mean, basically because you owe me for all the conversations that I've answered all your questions over the 4 years. So now I'm going to ask you so many questions about this. So, like, I want to talk more about this process, because there has to be a level of humility when you're approaching every single case, right? And we talk about that too. Like, when we talk about, for instance, helping somebody coming back from an ACL injury, it's a blank slate every single time. We don't take anything that we learned. Yeah, we learn lessons that we gain from our experiences with other folks and with other clients and other processes. But when we're working with a new person, it's a new person. And there's a level of humility there that you have to come in recognizing what you don't know. And you even hinted on it when you found that German bomb, that 500 one that wasn't in the system, right? Talk about how important it is to stay humble in that process and not think, oh, I know what the answer to this is.
Absolutely. I don't think anyone being in bomb disposal, you can have a bit of an ego, right? Because I think, you get that stamped out straight away in bomb disposal school, like, because you would have seen so much stories and so much, like, people who think that they know it all and stuff like that. So I think it's all rehearsal, Chris. Regardless to how much SC 500 or SC 50 you would have dealt with in the past, it's always a bit of how do you approach that, because this can be, not every bomb don't land in the same way, right? And it's really important so we have someone called the SO3, who's like the officer who will be on the 1 hour pager. So he will crash out first, and he will get as much picture, as much information of that device, of that bomb, whatever he came across. He will send that back to the ops room. So that's the reason why I'm on a 3 hour pager. So within that 3 hours, I'm getting all the information he's sending me. So the measurements, the position of the bomb, where is it facing, what type of fuse are we faced with and stuff like that. What's the site? What's the entry point? What's the exit? Everything. So I'll be all taking all my notes and writing all my information down. So I'm building up the picture. I'm 3 hours behind, but I'm starting to build up that picture from then. And that's what it is with the gym as well, because, you have a client in front of you. He or she give you the information over the phone, you having to start to build up that picture. Because again, you're trying to get as much information as possible, past injuries, current injuries, pre-op, post-op. So again, it's just like, I deal with fitness like a military operation. I tell my team that all the time, but that's what I do, and I think it's really working well for me up to just now, and I'm going to continue in that way. And I think with that as well, if I'm, approaching it as a military operation, I have to be humble, just like when I was back in the bomb disposal unit, and that's what I do up to just now, and it's working so far.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Definitely. How did you know that, or what was it about fitness that appealed to you, that when you were done with your military service that you decided, like, that's the avenue I want to go?
Pretty much, being in the Army, I was able, like, I took a lot of fitness training in the Army as well. I've chucked myself in sports in the Army because, if I'm not on deployment, either I'm boxing or I'm playing football, I'm doing track and field, sort of things. So with that now, I've realized, like, what, I wanna continue, with that fitness journey. And what was one of my biggest put off, right? I'm being honest, right? After being, like, in bomb disposal for 7 years, I got headhunted for a civilian contractor as a bomb disposal officer on the CV side of life, so ex-military. I went to the interview and was an ex-military officer, was the MD, and a couple of the guys in the office was ex-military as well. And I'm saying, man, listen, this is just like getting out of military kit to get into civilian kit, but you're still doing the same thing with the same people. And I wanted to cut clean, because I spent a couple of days in the office and all the guys talk about is past deployments and past this and past that. And you know what? I do hold on to my past deployment because it was good times, you know, and all the lads who, you know, paid the ultimate sacrifice, you want to still remember them. But at the same time, you want to kind of get away from it, if that makes sense. And
Totally.
I just said, like, you know what? I'm going on to the fitness route because I'm enjoying it. I was a ABA level 2 boxing coach at the time. You know, I was doing like taking my squadron. We was doing fitness, taking the troops training and stuff like that. And I said, you know what? That can be a cool life, and I don't have to say yes sir, no sir, you know, on everything you do, right? So that was it. That was it.
Last thing for you. We'll be over in the UK in August because I'm getting married in Scotland.
Brilliant.
So, yeah. And then afterwards, my fiance and I, at that time, she'll be my wife, and we're going to do a little mini moon in London. If you had to give me a recommendation, one thing I got to do while I'm over there, besides come see you while we're in the UK, obviously. So Limitless Fitness, visit with Dwayne. We'll put that in a side pocket.
For sure.
But as a tourist going to London, I got like 3 days. What's the one thing I got to do when I'm over there?
I think first of all, you got to have fish and chips, right? Because
come on,
in the
obviously,
UK, in the UK, I think it's big. But I think there is so much we take it for granted. I was living in central London at the time, so literally 600 meters from Buckingham Palace and London Eye and stuff like that. And but you just take it for granted. But you know, going back to London now and seeing all these beautiful sights, you know, it just take you back to the place and think, you know what, we're really lucky to have such, you know, lovely, you know, sights and stuff. So I think, you know, Buckingham, seeing the Buckingham Palace, I think is a big one. London Eye, just being able to just look around. But I think you got to get yourself down to Arsenal game, man. I think that's one of the we're talking off, man. I think that's what you got to do, man. To a football match.
I definitely want to come to a football match.
And you got to be Arsenal as well, man, because I'm a big Gunners fan.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, he is. So I did do that. I did get to see a Gunners match at the new stadium.
That's it.
That was quite the experience. So I would second that.
I gotta check the schedule and see men's, women's, whatever, whoever's home. That's who we're going to see. That weekend. Dwayne, this was phenomenal, man. I truly do hope that we get to see you when we're over in the UK.
Definitely.
In the summer, and obviously if you're back stateside in the DC or Richmond area, let us know and we'll get together. And thanks so much for coming on the podcast.
No, mate. Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for checking out this video. If you like it, we got more. Make sure you subscribe right here on YouTube and check out our podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, or even our website. It's got everything there. All the links you could possibly want. Go check it out. Trainwiththebest21.com.